Lesson 16, multiplication of polynomials and division of polynomials. Our first example is multiplication of polynomials. All right, we have a trinomial times a binomial. So let's start multiplying. First step is to take the first term in the trinomial and multiply it by both terms in the binomial. So 3x squared times x, for 3x to the third power, and then 3x squared times negative 2 for negative 6x squared. Next up, let's take the second term, the trinomial, multiply twice. Multiply by both terms in the binomial. Here we go. Negative 2x times x is negative 2x squared. And negative 2x times negative 2 is positive 4x. And then we're going to take the last term in the trinomial and do the same thing. Multiply to both items in the binomial. Here we go. Negative 2 times x, negative 2x, and negative 2 times negative 2 for positive 4. Let's combine up our like terms and put them in descending powers of x. Right? So my highest power of x is the x to the third power. And so that's going to be first. We have 3x to the third. I don't have any other x to the third terms. All right, next we have x squared. So here we go. Here's an x squared term. Go down the row and find other x squared terms. We got one. Add the coefficients negative 6 and negative 2 for negative 8x squared. All right, next up we have x terms. Go find all of your x terms, add the coefficients. 4 and negative 2 is going to give us 2x. Okay, and lastly, we just have a constant. No other constants to combine, so plus 4. And there's our answer, 3x to the third minus x squared plus 2x plus 4. Now let's do some division of polynomials. Example 2, we're asked to divide negative 6 plus x to the third by negative 2 plus x. All right, let's get this set up. What's being divided is negative 6 plus x to the third. All right, guys, this is super important that we put them in descending powers of x. So the highest power of x is x to the third. That's going to go first. And then we have 6. I'm going to leave some space because we have to put some placeholders in here. We need descending powers of x, and when we're doing polynomial division, we need a space for every power, descending from the first going on down to the constant. All right, so the next is going to be my placeholder for the x squared term. I don't have any, so it's 0x squared, followed by 0x, placeholder for my x term. I don't have any x's. And then finally minus 6. Okay, so super important that you use placeholders or it's not gonna work. All right, what's doing the dividing? What's doing the dividing is negative 2 plus x. Same thing. We need to put them in descending powers of x. So you're gonna put the x first and then the 2. All right, let's clean this up a little bit. We're ready to start dividing, but I want us to think about the process, the division algorithm with the numerical division. So this would be something like you learned in, I don't know, 3rd or 4th grade. Okay, we want to follow this process. Let's divide 286 by 3. Okay, so you can always go back to this if you forget the process. It goes divide, multiply, subtract, bring down. Right? We go divide. 3 into 28 is, right? 3 into 28, I don't know why I wrote a blue dot there, is 9. So that's the divide. Okay, what's next is multiply. We go 9 times 3 is 27. And then we subtract, right? 28 minus 27 is 1. And then what? We bring down. So bring down the 6. That's exactly what we're going to do over with our polynomial division. There's a couple changes, but it's going to follow the same division algorithm. Divide, multiply, subtract, bring down. Ready to go? All right, here we go. We're going to say, oh, what do we divide? What's doing the dividing? The x minus 2. But you're only going to take the first term into the first term, okay? First term of the divisor into the first term in the dividend. So x goes into x cubed how many times? In other words, what would I multiply x by to get x to the third? And I don't know why I wrote that. I said x to the third and I wrote it. Right? I'm going to multiply by x to the second, right? So x to the third divided by x. That's really what's going on, right? So x squared. All right, so we did the division, and now we're at multiply. Now we're at this step over here with our numerical division, right? Multiply. 9 times 3. We're going to multiply, except we're going to multiply to both terms, the divisor. So here we go, x squared times x for x to the third, and then x squared times negative 2 for negative 2x squared. Okay, what's next is subtract. So we did divide, multiply, subtract comes next, but wait, we're subtracting more than one item. So follow me here. I'm going to put this in parentheses. I'm subtracting all this green stuff. You need to keep in mind that subtraction is simply adding the opposite. Okay, so if you can think in terms of that, you will be good to go. So adding the opposite, let's change this up. Subtraction is adding, so I'm going to change the minus to a plus, and then I'm going to make each of these terms opposite. So here we go, opposite of positive x to the third, opposite of the negative 2x squared. Okay, I just changed the signs because subtraction is adding the opposite. So now let's add as we go down. So adding our x to the third terms, those cancel. Okay, so they cancel. You don't have to put a 0 here unless you want to. They just cancel, they're gone. All right, and my x squared terms add them up and I get 2x squared. Okay, look over to our numerical division over here on the right. The next step was bring down. We did divide, multiply, subtract, and bring down. So let's bring down the next term, which is a plus 0x, and we're going to do it again. Okay, we're going to repeat the process. Ready? Okay, here we go. So what's doing the dividing? The x, and that's going to go into what? Just the first term of what's left over. It's 2x squared. Okay, so we say x goes into 2x squared how many times? And write it above. So plus 2x. Okay, and now we what? Multiply. So we divided, we multiply by both terms in the divisor. So here we go, 2x times x for 2x squared, and then 2x times negative 2, negative 4x. All right, we did divide, multiply. What's next? Subtract. I'm subtracting the group, which is adding, changing it to add, adding the what? Adding the opposite. So opposite, opposite. I just changed the signs. Okay, so now we add. Our first terms drop out, they zero out, leaving us with just adding our 0x plus 4x for 4x. Next step is to bring down. So bring down the negative 6, and we do it all again. All right, what's doing the dividing? Just the x into what? Just the first term of what's been brought down. All right, so x goes into 4x how many times? 4. Okay, next up is multiply. Multiply both. So 4 times x. 4x, 4 times negative 2, negative 8. What's the next step, guys? Subtract. So here we go, subtract. Subtracting means adding the opposite. The opposite. I just changed the signs. Let's add. First terms are always going to drop out if you're doing this right. Okay, and then add the next terms, -6 and +8. Last step is to bring down. Oops, we're done. There's nothing to bring down. So this is the remainder. We're going to write the remainder in fraction form. So let's go back over to our numerical division just for a sec. So when we go 3, let's finish this. 3 into 16 is 5, and we multiply. 5 times 3 is 15. We subtract, and then we bring down. Nothing's left to bring down, so the 1 is the remainder. So instead of writing it as R1, which is what you learned to do at the very first step, okay, we're going to write that as a remainder, the remainder as a fraction. So take your remainder of 1 and write it over the divisor, in this case, 3. So we have 95 and 1/3. We're going to do the same exact thing. So take over in our polynomial division here on the left, remainder is 2. So up at the top of the box, we go +2, write it as a fraction over the what? Over the divisor x minus 2. Okay, and so this is your answer. Try and stick it in the box here. Now, listen up. What your book is going to ask you to do is to check your answer by multiplication. You do not have to do that. Basically, what they're asking you to do is they're saying, hey, if you can multiply this out, x minus 2, the divisor, okay, times the quotient, which is this big old answer up here. That's the quotient. If you multiply that out, with polynomial multiplication, you should get the dividend. Okay, you should get this. You do not have to do that step. Okay, so just do the polynomial division, get your answer here in the box, just get the quotient. That's all we're going to do. Okay, that was a lot. I think you guys learned this at the end of Algebra 1. We're going to do one more example, and we'll go a little bit faster. So I'm not sure how much practice you guys got last year at the end of the year, but so let's do one more, and then we'll call it a day. So what's being divided is this. So for the setup, remember we're going to go in descending powers of x. So the 4x cubed goes first, followed by the squared term, followed by the x term, followed by the constant. Wow, they just put it completely in reverse order, didn't they? All right, and it's being multiplied by what? Sorry, it's being divided by. It's doing the dividing is -3 plus x. Again, we put that in descending powers of x, so switch the order. Okay, guys, you ready? Here we go. Multiply just the first term in the divisor into just the first term inside. X goes into 4x cubed, 4x squared. Okay, now we're going to multiply by both. So 4x squared times x for 4x to the third. Just do a quick check. We should always get the same term for that first step. We should always get the same term, and we did. Okay, and then multiply it by that second term in the divisor and get -12x squared. Okay, next step is subtract, okay, which is adding the opposite, 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 change the signs, add them up. First terms cancel, and we have -3 and +12 for +9x squared. Next step, bring down the 7x. We're ready to multiply again, or sorry, to divide again. All right, first term in the divisor into first term inside. X goes into 9x squared, 9x times. Okay, next step is multiply. Let's get green. All right, here we go. 9x times x, 9x squared, and then 9x times negative 3, negative 27x. Next step, subtract. So subtracting means add the opposite, the opposite. Now we add. Oops, I don't know what happened there. What was that? 7 and 27 should be 34. 34x. All right, next up, bring down the 3 and do it again. All right, what's being divided? Who's doing the dividing? Just the first term x into just the first term inside. X goes into 34x 34 times and multiply. 34 times x is 34x, and then 34 times negative 3 is a negative, let's see, 34 times 3 off to the side, because I have to do it old school. All right, so that's minus 102. And the last step here, subtract, which means what? Add the opposite, the opposite. Let's add. First terms are gone. And I have 105. I can't bring down anymore, right? I don't have anything else to bring down. So 105 is my remainder. We'll write it in fraction form. So back up at the top of the box. Okay, we're going to write a fraction. It's 105, the remainder. 105 what? 105 over x minus 3. Okay, and that is your answer. That's the quotient. All right, we are done. The end.